Hello friends, this is Dr. Neeta. I welcome you all to the session of storytelling. Now this is again a part of our Teachers Training Diploma courses, phase number 4, language and storytelling phase. So let's start with storytelling. What is storytelling? Storytelling is the social and cultural activity of sharing stories, often with improvisation, theatrics, or embellishment. Stories or narratives have been shared in every culture as means of entertainment, education, cultural preservation, and instilling moral values. So we have seen key where actually we are using storytelling. Now the most important fact why we love stories. The most important reason behind it is whenever we were child, at that age, whenever we sleep, at that moment of time, in the lap of mother, where we find ourselves very safe and we are relaxed. At that moment of time, either some sweet lori she is singing for you or any story she is telling to you. That is how actually you start just listening those kind of stories and developing some kind of meaning within your mind and thinking about that, and that is how actually you grow up. Now within this time, you being a child, you come across with many different kind of stories, and that actually become a part of your life. Now we as an adult and grown-ups, we are also actually love stories. Rather, we are surrounded with stories. What exactly this social media telling us? Everyone is telling a story. What this news channel are telling us? Everyone is telling us a story. What each and every message, even it's a WhatsApp, Facebook, any kind of thing, what actually it is giving you a story. One song, one album song, actually within that song itself you can understand the story. So one movie, again it's a story. One ad film, again it's a story. So we are actually surrounded with stories, and story is the most effective tool whenever you'd like to communicate. So it's a very effective tool for communication, and the most important thing is you don't have to work on it because everyone love it like anything. And that's how in corporate also nowadays storytelling is a very effective way of conveying the message. So for of course preschoolers, these children, they love stories like anything. And whenever it comes to bringing their attention and focus concentration, it's a very easy whenever you are using the tool of storytelling, whenever you are teaching. So as it's so effective that you don't have to work on getting their attention, and automatically you will get their focus and concentration also. What you have to work on is how more beautifully, how more effectively actually you can convey that message which they should learn out of it. That is what is very important. So this is what is all about storytelling. Moving ahead, why storytelling? Educators have long known that the art can contribute to student academic success and emotional well-being. The ancient art of storytelling is especially well suited for students' exploration. No special equipment beyond the imagination and the power of listening and speaking is needed to create artistic images. As a learning tool, storytelling can encourage students to explore their unique expressiveness and can heighten a student's ability to communicate thoughts and feelings in articulate, lucid manner. So why storytelling? Basically, we don't require any kind of lab or apparatus or any kind of material. When it comes to storytelling, only you are using your language and your expressions to convey the message. So at very less resources actually you can convey and conduct this activity. That is the first thing. Of course, whenever you are telling stories, it heighten the different kind of benefits are there. One is enhancing their creativity, their imagination. Now if we'll ask them to think about pink elephant, so one can actually think about that pink color elephant, even though elephants are not in pink in color, but still in imagination you can create the image of pink elephant. Now you ask them that elephant is flying, so one can create the image of pink elephant who is having very good uh, wings, and the elephant is flying in the sky. So imagination is not having any kind of limitation, so you can enhance their creativity by enhancing their imagination and enhancing, this is how they will become more innovative and more creative. So these are the basic few advantages. That's how you actually you can conduct storytelling very effectively, and you can get very productive result out of it. Storytelling, it is the art of using language, vocalization, physical movement, and gestures to reveal the elements and images of a story to specific live audiences. It's said that the art of bringing a story to life is through the inflection in one's voice, rhythm, facial expressions, hands, and body movements. By Gravy, 1990s, stories are powerful means of language teaching. A skillful teacher can use story to develop more efficient listening, more fluent speaking, and the ability to read and write easily and completely. The hidden power of story. Science, by its own definition, doesn't give us meaning. It just provides us with facts. Our lives gain meaning only when we tell our story. Now there are some facts given, like Cambridge University Press webinar. They says in this Harvard Puchta, that is one Cambridge magazine. They discuss the importance of story in preschool children, and according to Dr. Hubbard, stories are so essential to young learners. There are numerous reasons to be used storytelling strategic teaching, especially in preschool. So these people also mention that it's very useful, and that's why you should actually tell stories for the preschool children. Now, why stories are important? Dr. Hubbard says it helps grab children's attention. Children encounter world, take children on a journey. Children make the most of language, stimulate intense experience without actually having lived through them. For example, jungle, sea world, or any accident, etc. Survive and make sense of real world and children in a social senses. So these are all the advantages, benefits of storytelling, wherein we can work on their attention, we can work on their vocabulary, we can work on their imagination, we can work on their language development, and we can work on their socialization. And we can actually make them aware with different kind of facts, different kind of images, new kind of characters. All these kind of things actually you can add up in the knowledge of students, and that is how you can also work on their intellect, their focus and concentration level. All these are the benefits and importance of stories. Moving ahead, other benefits: stories are lexically dense. Stories are powerful source of imagination. Stories can lead the children toward creative thinking than writing. Stories can make your class more communicative. Stories can be more helpful, make a child confident. Stories can introduce cultural activities. Stories build moral values in an interesting way. Stories enhance public speaking skills. Stories reduces stage fear. So these are the additional benefits of stories, with the help of which the child can actually regain its confidence. They can actually overcome their fear, and they can develop good public speaking and stage daring skills. All this kind of thing. Of course, they can work on their communication skills, their imagination power. All these are the benefits and advantages of storytelling. Now, these are the benefits which is given in phase number 4. In book, whatever advantages we have discussed, which is exam point of view important. So first benefit is storytelling is interactive. Storytelling involves a two-way interaction between a storyteller and one or more listener. The responses of the listener influence the telling of the story. In fact, storytelling emerges from the interaction and cooperative coordination efforts of teller and audience. The interactive nature of storytelling partially accounts for its immediacy and impact. At its best, storytelling can directly and tightly connect the teller and audience. So It is said in number one benefit that storytelling is interactive. Now, whenever it comes to any kind of classroom teaching, you must need a bonding between the audience and, of course, a speaker. So that bonding, that rapport needs to be built properly. And whenever you are telling the story, of course you are giving some kind of message. You are a sender and they are, your class is your audience and they are a receiver. So actually there is some kind of coordination, cooperation, and some kind of rapport built among both of you, and that's how actually it becomes interactive, because you ask something, they tell something, you actually make them think on something and they'll reply you in certain way. And that's how even within among themselves also they may discuss about some kind of problem, and that's how they get more socialized. So all this kind of thing happens, so that's why it makes the audience more interactive. So it's very very interactive. Second point, storytelling uses words. Storytelling uses language, whether it is a spoken language or sign language. The use of language distinguishes storytelling from most form of dance and mime. Now, dance and mime are again another part of language development, wherein they are learning different kind of sign language, symbolic language. But whenever it comes to spoken language, at that moment of time, storytelling is very very effective, because whenever you are using story at that moment of time, literally, story is having some kind of characters within it, and that characters having some kind of conversation among them, and that conversation, whatever they use, actually those words are words which actually we need on daily basis within any kind of communication and any kind of message exchanging sort of thing. So as these are the real time word whichever that characters are using, that's why it's very very effective to actually improve our vocabulary, and that's how it helps for language development. So that's how story is using different words, and that is how it build our vocabulary, lexis, and it ultimately used for language development. So this much for point number. Moving ahead with point number 3 and 4. So third point is storytelling uses actions such as vocalization, physical movements, or gestures. These actions are the part of spoken or manual language other than words. Their use distinguishes storytelling from writing and text-based computer interaction. Not all nonverbal language behaviors needs to be present in storytelling. Some storytellers use body movements extensively, for example, whereas others use little or none. Now, whenever it comes to action, now from my end, I'm giving some suggestions to the teachers that whenever you are telling the story at that moment of time, you should be more concerned about what you are speaking rather than what you are doing, because if you are doing much, in that case the children will actually focus more on your action rather than what you are saying. But our ultimate aim is they should listen to the story, understand it, and understand the values and whatever learning they are getting out of it. So rather than getting more physical, means more movements, you should have certain movements. You should not be planted at one place, of course. You may move, you may have a specific kind of hand movement, but you should avoid very heavy hand movement, body movement, neck movement, and very heavy sounds should be avoided. Yeah, of course you have to use voice modulation there. Pitch must be go somewhere high, somewhere lower down, somewhere it must be balanced. Of course it should not be monotonous throughout the your storytelling session, but few of the instruction is like that. There should be proper voice modulation which needs to be balanced. Your hand movements, your body movements, your facial expression needs to be balanced again. Whenever it goes to extreme level at that moment of time, actually children are very emotional. If you get angry within that particular character, they may get frightened of you itself, and within that fear they may feel something very extreme also. So you should not actually give them any kind of extreme emotion. So always it needs to be balanced. Even the choice of stories needs to be taken in that way only. You should not tell them ghost, demon, chudel, atma, these kind of stories, of course you should avoid it. And the even dangerous animal story should not be tell, with which actually they may get into fear. So you should tell them very light and soothing stories of nature. beautiful birds, very good animals, all these kind of things, even sun, moon, star, river, plants, trees, all these kind of things you can actually use within your story rather than using these dangerous things within your story. So these are all kind of instruction. Please keep in mind whenever you are doing storytelling session. Now moving ahead with the next, that is storytelling presents a story. Storytelling always involves the presentation of a story or narrative. Many others art forms also present story, but storytelling present it with the other four components. Every culture has its own definition of story. What is recognized as a story is one situation may not be accepted as one in another. Some situation call for spontaneity and playful digression. For example, other call for near exact repetition of reverted text. Art forms such as poetry, recitation, and stand-up comedy sometimes present stories and sometimes don't. Since they generally involve the other four components, they can be regarded as form of storytelling whenever they also present stories. So actually, always in a story telling, there is again a story. Means uh, uh, a small stand-up comedy show, if you'll take, within that they will give you many examples, small stories they will give you, and that is how they will try to make you laugh. Even if it is any kind of poetry, they'll give you one situation, one another and after another, and that is how the combination of one after another, and within that also, in every combination, in every one situation there may be a story. So story always having some reference of story. Next point is storytelling encourages the active imagination of the listener. In storytelling, the listener imagines the story. In most traditional theatres or in a typical dramatic film, on the other hand, the listener enjoys the illusion that the listener is actually witnessing the character or event described in the story. The storytelling listener as role is to actively create the vivid multi-sensory images, actions, characters, and events, the reality of the story in his or her mind based on the performance by the teller and on the listener. As own past experiences, beliefs, and understanding, the completed story happens in the mind of the listener, a unique and personalized individual. The listener becomes therefore a co-creator of story as experienced. So it's very important because whenever you are telling story, actually it encourage your active imagination, and actually you should not tell, you should avoid very imaginary stories. Of course there is imagination because we always based on animal, whatever stories we are telling, so every story animals are speaking, but in real life animals can't speak. The thing is why we are actually putting it on animals, because sometime we are making some kind of bad characters onto specific animal. So okay, they are animals, so they may be bad, they may be, they may not be ethical, good, and all that kind of characteristics. Actually we are belonging to some kind of animal, but every time if we'll give those kind of characteristics to human being, children will think that all human beings are like this only, and that's how actually most of the time we use animals, so that they can learn it, it's for animals and not for us directly. Another thing is, if you tell them two imaginary stories, they may live in that imagination. Now, for example, you always tell them some fairy story, and if something goes wrong, so they may always wait for that fairy to come and solve that or sort out that problem. They may not find the solution by themselves because they think that someone is going to come and help them within that situation, and they may actually always become dependent because they always think that superhero or that fairy will come to me and he will rescue from this problem to me. So they may not learn problem solving techniques in the real life. That is again a problem. There are some famous movies which actually represent these kind of problems in a very creative way. You might have seen one movie that Aparichit movie is there, which is actually one mental disorder. Within that, he changed different kind of personality, but that stories were there within his mind, and that's why actually he was working toward those stories, and that's how he may split into different personalities, and he actually get into those characters and think that he's that particular character. Again, one famous movie of Akshay Kumar and Vidya Balan, I think, Bhool Bhulaiya. Within that movie, I think the famous song Manjalika, you must be knowing, Mere Dholana song. So in that movie also, Manjalika, whichever characters we have seen, actually she was facing some kind of psychological problem, because in her childhood she has actually heard many Panchatattva stories, and actually she lives within the stories. That imagination was so strong that whenever she has actually seen all those things around her, that she thinks that she is a character from that story, and that is how she started behaving, and she becomes Manjalika, that because she was playing that character within her imagination, and that's how actually that story impact negatively. So that is the problem of for too much imagination and too much imaginatory story. That's why stories needs to be realistic and not too much imaginary. That you needs to be taken care, because it enhances and encourages the imagination of the listener, and they get involved, and sometimes there may be negative impact of all this kind of thing. So these are a few of the benefits of storytelling. Moving ahead, making stories exciting and fun. And the tools of the tailor: voice, body, face, imagination, enthusiasm, spirit, cooperation with the audience. So these all things as a tool we can use in for adding excitement and fun in the story. Elements of story. So whenever you start the story, you need to start with the background. This indicates includes the introduction of the character and setting. Then you rise up by giving some rising action that includes the event leading up to the main problem or conflict. In the climax, this is the situation wherein the problem has reaches to the highest point. Then falling action, this is when the character works to solve the problem or conflict. And lastly, resolution. This is how things and up in the story it happens. So these are the five different elements of story. In every story, it goes like this only, and based on that, actually stories may go in a flow. So these are the basic elements of story. The plot of a great story includes a starting point, quickly setting up the story, an interesting dilemma or conflict, the journey to resolve the conflict, climax, resolution, and the lesson. Easy steps to create great storytelling. Create character. Make your storytelling big or small. Have fully control on facial expression. Talk with your hands. Create a storytelling atmosphere. Win the audience with the first line. Tell the story with feelings. Involve the audience in story. Slow down for the ending. So actually, whenever you are telling story at that moment of time, you need to be very careful whenever you are choosing the character of the story. Create some story behind that character also. Introduce the character in a very funny and a very creative way, and that's how make that feeling. Actually, nowadays everything is theme based. What is theme? Theme is again telling you the story, right? If the marriage is theme based, for example, Rajasthani theme they have selected, so there will be camels, there will be some kind of deserts will be shown, there will be similar kind of things shown, so that even everything they will tell a story. So that theme, creating that theme is creating atmosphere, that environment, and giving them feel that they are actually within that situation itself. Virtual reality, you must be knowing virtual reality, you are sitting on one particular seat, but they are creating such kind of environment with your imagination that actually you go in that environment and feel that particular thing. So actually it's a it improve your thirst, your curiosity, and that's how you can make it more effective. Move ahead. How to tell stories. Mastering storytelling fundamentals. First is engaging your audience is very, very important. Then you need to build a scene, build tension and release tension, focus on what's important, keep the flow logical, and make it feel conclusive. So whenever it comes to uh, telling a story at that moment of time, it needs to be engaging. Your audience needs to be involved, get entangled with you in such a way that their little attention should not go away from you. That much attention you should actually engagement you should create with your audience. There needs to be one sense develop. You need to actually sometime build and release tension also. You need to focus exactly what is my aim behind telling this story, so you need to actually focus on important points. Always keep the flow very very logical, and you needs to be actually very clear cut conclusive at the end, that what lesson you have got. You should actually be very clear in the communication. So these are the basic things you need to take care whenever you are telling the story. Move ahead, you can please make a story. So these are few things, and you have to create one story out of this. So try and let me know on our group. Activities related to story: mastering storytelling fundamentals. You can tell stories while children draw it. Boost up artistic abilities. Prompt question after exact you have told story. Imperative sentences. Suggest a story. Story of zero. Allah is omnipresent. So all these type of activities you can take. This evocative form of folklore sometimes stands in the state of wisdom tale. Thought provoking proverb can suggest a larger scenario, invite readers to look at proverbs creatively and imagine the story the proverb suggests by the forest. Now, these are few of the suggested stories and proverbs. You just go through the list given in this PPT, these references. So, thank you very much. This much for this video.